yes, there is a dramatic change in the fortunes of Marcos Ambrose. Our championship for 2003 won't be decided until the final round. That will be the 17th time in history that it's gone the complete distance for the season before we found a winner. But talking about winners, well, Greg Murphy's just going from strength to strength here at Pukekohe. Qualified first, one race two, and now he'll start from position number 1 in the third and final race for the 12th round of the V8 Supercar Championship. There's been problems with car 888. 10th on the grid. We'll update you there shortly. Not sure if it's actually made it out of pit lane yet. Jamie Whincup starting from 17th. Craig Baird in 19th. Team Kiwi Racing. Stephen Ellery, fast car, but he didn't get the result in race 2. Bradley Jones had his dramas. Russell Ingall, Stone Brothers Racing from position 26. You already would have seen Marcos Ambrose from position 23. And the Shell Helix Racing team have been very, very busy. And there's John Bauer. By the way, Shell Helix Racing now have 2 fresh engines in cars 17 and 18. And JB is out of the car. The car is in the garage. What's happening, Greg Rust?
We'll update you very shortly on the situation with John Bauer. In fact, we'll have a talk to him once the race settles down. As you mentioned, Matthew, brilliant performance by the Dick Johnson Racing team. Everyone in that garage going flat out in the short window between races. Even Dick was getting his hands dirty. As a precaution, they changed the engine in car 18. And great work also to Garth Tander's car. They've replaced the drive shaft. They've replaced the entire rear end and exhaust pipe. And even Garth was getting his hands dirty in the process. Darryl?
Yeah, just Marcos Ambrose was actually in the pit garage here. Pit lane only had 2 minutes to go before it closed. He got out with enough time, but they had the bonnet up on that car. I asked Ross Stone what had happened. They said a throttle sensor switch. They had changed it since the last race. There was a little bit of an issue there. And speaking of that, Brad Jones had an issue in the last race with that as well. That car actually went on to reserve with the sensor, obviously playing havoc with the fuel.
So we'll have a hole on position number 10 on the grid. That's where John Bauer was meant to start from. He qualified 15th for the weekend, got himself up to 10th in that last race. And just about half an hour ago, I was down there talking to him in pit lane, and there didn't appear to be any problems whatsoever. I mean, he had his problems as part of the Aussie Mail team throughout the race, and he had plenty to say about that, but no indication that car 888 would be missing. But the battle between 51 and 1. We also have to watch out for Marcos Ambrose. Looks as though Scaife got a good start, and he certainly did. So too did Jason Bright. So Mark Scaife puts the pressure straight away on Greg Murphy. And now, could this be a repeat performance of race 1, 2 wide into turn 2? No, they settle down. Scaife, then Bright, then Murphy and Todd Kelly. But Lowndes has lost it completely. Gone straight across the grass and rejoined at turn 4.
Someone must have given that thing a tap because it's dragged the bumper off, not dissimilar to the Brad Jones issue in the previous race. So he's dropped a bundle of placings there. Scaife.
Right, we're just going to try and stay out, mate. Stay out until the CPS window opens.
Excellent start for Bright. Very ordinary start for Murphy. Bright locks up, and I reckon Murph has a nibble on the inside. Oh, one of the Valvoline cars spears left in the braking area and has gone all the way through its Whincup and made contact, and I'd say heavily, with the tyre barrier.
Into the straight, no brakes, and I've backed it into the wall.
No brakes at the end of the back straight. The fastest part of the circuit coming down into the Holden hairpin, and Jamie Whincup goes into the tyre wall. Also contact I saw for Jason Bargwanna down there at that hairpin, but Mark Scaife has a clear break on Jason Bright.
62.9 the opening lap time for Mark Scaife, and he had a 0.8 of a second margin at the end of that lap, so it's an excellent opening for him. And the next closest was Bright with a 63.8. To give you an idea of just what traffic does to a field here, go back and look at somebody like Brad Jones in 10th place, and his is a 71 second lap time. A huge drop when you're back in the pack. That's the problem that Ambrose faces.
Greg Murphy's got a problem of his own at the moment. He's got Jason Bright in front of him, Todd Kelly behind him. Somebody's gone off to the right-hand side there. As they come up, well, that's Whincup ambling home with some pretty severe damage.
Lowndes is going to get a mechanical black flag for the dragging bumper on that car, so they're not going to get through to the CPS, the compulsory pit stop window, to deal with that problem. Air temperature is 24, track temperature is 31. It's fractionally warmer than the earlier race. 57.8, fastest lap for Scaife so far on his first flying lap. 1.6 seconds the margin The closest man in lap speed, again behind him, is Jason Bright with a 58.6. And in the early laps of the previous race, Matthew, people have some difficulties to overcome in motor racing as we look at the stricken left front of Whincup's car. Scafie had to contend with our commentary. There was some sort of an audio leakage problem, and their radios were picking up us, and I wouldn't wish him any worse luck than that.
Bad enough for everybody else, let alone somebody who's trying to work. I think, mate, that Lowndes might make it inside because the pit window opens on lap 2. Pit window's open at the end of lap 2 to 38. That's the start, and you see that Scaife gets past Murph.
His initial jump wasn't bad, but then it bogged. Bridie was the one that was in good shape, but being out wide there, he was in the marbles and had to yield to Mark, or it would have been a repeat of the wet race incident down there between Scafie and Max. There's Lowndes in.
Good look at that. It depends if they replay it, mate.
Greg Rust is down there.
Well, Craig's been on the radio talking to the crew, obviously wanting to have a good look at it, were his words. So I'm assuming that's obviously the incident which has caused this. A lot of time being spent on the back left here. They're trying to undo the bumper, losing a lot of time, Craig Lowndes. At least he was able to get the tyres on in the compulsory stop now.
Initially, we nearly stalled it then. Initially, they tried to tear it off, and then eventually went and got the Allen key wrench and just removed the whole assembly. And out he goes.
Yeah, I was just taking a look at where he was on the grid.
Mate, they haven't replayed the incident.
He started at 12th. Around him, without pointing any fingers, Paul Wheel, as he mentioned, Rick Kelly was around there, Dean Canto was behind him, Paul Morris and David Bernard were a row further back.
57.7 for Scaife on the last lap as Lowndes rejoins. Alongside Brad Jones, has to take to the grass side by side, and they crunch to turn 3.
It's what happens when you rejoin in traffic, isn't it? And that's exactly what Lowndes found himself in the position. Brad Jones coming through, he's got a fairly good dent.
It's the two rear bumper merchants getting together. Remember, Craig's on cold tyres. Ambrose to 16th. He's up the inside. Brad leaves room, but he's getting a touch up. And it's Tander that's just giving him a little touch as they go through the hairpin at 5. Ambrose 16th, 58.8 last lap for him. So he's made good ground.
He was a victim of that oil spill, Neil, in race 2. Ended up severely flat spotting a tyre, and that's why he had to come in for the second pit stop, which put him way down the order. The PlayStation 2 race score at the moment: Scaife, Bright, Murphy, Todd Kelly, Stephen Richards, Jason Bargwanna, Paul Radisich, Simon Wills, Glenn Seaton and Rick Kelly make up our top 10. None of those contenders have bothered to go in for an early pit stop. In fact, I think only Max Wilson, Stephen Ellery and Cameron McConville, way further down the list, have.
Some people, if they're not being too traffic affected, will want to stretch this leg if they can to reduce the stress on the next set of tyres. Remember that only 12 tyres allocated for the 3 races this weekend. And very important to manage them and get them through to a strong position in terms of your rubber in the last 2/3 of this race. Rusty?
Just waiting to have a word to John Bowe. He's just having a brief chat with Phil Curtis, his engineer. It does sound like, JB, was it an oil pressure problem? What happened?
Sorry, mate, what was that?
What was the problem with the car? Was it an oil pressure drama? Why were you able to take the start?
A mechanical problem in the car. I was just told to say that. A mechanical problem in the car. So, obviously, I couldn't take the start. So, yeah, very disappointing, really. It just reared its head on the outlap. I mean, I went out and did a couple of laps like everybody does, and it reared its head on the 3rd out, you know. Yeah.
Spectator, hard luck.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame because the car's been going quite well, and we've had a a good year in terms of reliability. So it's just one of those things. It happens in motor racing, mate.
Thanks, John.
You have the opportunities. One of the HRT cars peels off to cycle through the pit lane to do your warm-up process. So John was suggesting there that on the 3rd of his warm-up laps, something's gone awry in the engine, I'd suggest. And it's Todd Kelly, I think, that's come in.
Yes, it was. Scaife's still out there. He leads the race. Bright and Murphy. The gap between Scaife and Bright is 3.4 seconds. And Murphy's a further second behind them.
Scaife, Bright, Murphy, Richards, Bargwanna, Radisich, Wills. This is Todd. Murphy will be the next in. Darryl.
Yeah, Todd Kelly in. Good stop. Nice, clean stop. Everything okay.
They're on their game today, the HRT boys, aren't they? In the
It's a great stop in that second race for Mark, and it put him back in a particularly competitive position. Further behind, Wills in 7th at Seaton as we go on board with Scaife. Anti-roll bar adjustment for him. Then Rick Kelly 9th, Paul Wheel 10th, Dean Canto 11th, Bernard 12th, Morris 13, Ingle, Baird, Ambrose 16, Dumbrell, Tander, Larkham and Tratt. That's the top 20.
That last lap was a 57.7 for Mark Scaife and a 58 flat for Jason Bright. Keeping my eye on the monitor, and Marcus Ambrose did a 59 flat on his last lap. He moves up to 14th position. Ambrose is now. Murphy comes in, a crucial stop for the Kmart team.
Well, Greg's mum, Chris, was perched high above the pit lane in the corporate box. She yelled to the crew, come on, boys, put in a good one. And boy, didn't they do just that.
About 7 seconds flat, give or take a tenth or so, Rusty. So that's right up there. And listen to the crowd.
It's going to be close. Here comes Scaife. Murphy on cold tyres. He's got track position. No, it's Kelly. I apologise.
Todd Kelly threw the lights on to make sure that Greg Murphy knew he was there. The crowd could sense something happening, and it certainly was. So Mark Scaife will go into pit lane for his stop. Down the back straight, Greg Murphy rejoins the race in front of HRT number 2, Todd Kelly.
Mark Scaife into the pits. This team definitely improved these wheel changes. Seems to be good stop. Good stops. Oh no, there's a slight delay on the road front. Not as good as Todd Kelly's.
It was the right front, was it, Darryl?
Yes.
Yeah, it was all looking pretty good. About a second out of the time of Todd and Greg Murphy. So now, where does Scaife rejoin? Halfway down the main straight in front of Murphy and Todd Kelly. The race now gets very interesting, and once more Murph finds himself right in the middle of 1 and 2. In the end, perfect strategy played out for the Holden Racing team. They got their #1 man back out in front, and the second best thing to getting second position for Todd Kelly was to get him right in the position to put the pressure on Greg Murphy. Network 10 right around Australia, and of course One Sport here in New Zealand. Welcome back to Pukekohe Park Raceway, and we rejoin this battle between Greg Murphy and Todd Kelly. Murphy in second position, Kelly in third. Murphy got a little bit loose just when we came back there. The official timing monitor hasn't tripped him up the order corrected wise as far as his pit stop goes, so officially he's around 11 positions back from Mark Scaife, but thankfully we get to see the real thing, the pictures, and the pictures tell the story as Todd Kelly puts the pressure down at the Holden hairpin.
I think for some reason the transponder in his car hasn't tripped the trigger in the pit lane, so the computer's seeing him being a lap down, which isn't obviously the case. Scaife's the fastest man on the track, 57.4 on his last lap. Aggravation here between Stevie Johnson and Russell Ingle, and Stephen Johnson is having one of those weekends.
Just incredible, isn't it? How it just falls apart like that, and they've worked so hard, those guys, since the end of race 2. Did a double engine change on 17 and 18. They're certainly not lacking in the hard work department, but they're picking up all the hard luck. The gap between Mark Scaife and Greg Murphy should be around about 5 or 6 seconds. That's what it looks like.
Scaife's 15th in the computer scoring at the moment, with Jason Bright the leader. Remember, he's not stopped. Glenn Seaton, Dean Canto, Russell Ingle, who we had a glimpse of before, David Bernard, Marcus Ambrose up in 6th. Those people still to stop. Greg?
Well, gee, it's been a tough weekend as far as damage is concerned for the Repco Valvoline Cummins team. KB Whincup, what happened?
Got off to a great start. We passed 2 or 3 cars in the first lap, and coming into the hairpin, we broke a rotor. Therefore, had absolutely no brakes, and the car spun around and backed into the wall and went up in the air and managed to get it back to the pitch, but a lot of damage and put us out for the day.
Wild ride at Bookie. Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Greg.
I can't recall the last time that I heard of anyone actually fracturing a rotor like that. That's pretty amazing situation.
What about the damage that was done to Jamie's partner at Gary Rogers Motorsport, car 34? That was a bizarre sight at the end of race 2, seeing that thing on the back of the truck. But Greg Murphy continues to hold off this charge from Todd Kelly, and all this is paying very handsome dividends for Mark Skaife out in front. Effectively got nobody to pester him at all, and he's been putting down back-to-back 57s. 57.4 is his fastest lap. Here's Jason Bright, yet to stop, leads the race. Seaton's behind him. Ingle is third on the road. Marcus Ambrose is 5th on the road at the moment, also yet to pit. Pit window open at the end of lap 2 and closes lap 38. We talked about the bank of tyres that these guys get across the weekend, 12 tyres. The thing that saved a lot of them, Neil, was that wet weather race, race 1.
Yes. Yeah, they've all got a better situation than they might otherwise have faced. Incidentally, Bright's lead over Skaife at the moment, who is showing in 12th position as David Bernard's car gets crossed up at turn 3, is 41 seconds. So it's going to take 48 to 50 seconds to process a stop here. And so Skaife is going to be in a safe position, assuming everything stays as it is. Darryl?
Neil, interesting. Stone Brothers had Russell Ingles' wheels out preparing for him to stop over the last 2 or 3 laps. They were onto him on the radio about coming in. He said, are you sure, let's push on with this, push on. So they've put it all back away again.
Yeah, he's looking for a clear air run, which he's got at the moment, and he's just trying to make any 1/10 of a second here or there that he can to see whether after he takes his stop, he's in a better position than he was at the start of this race.
Making pretty good ground here, just keep pressing on.
And Marcus Ambrose gets around David Bernard. It's a bit of forward help along the way.
59.2 on the last lap for Ambrose, so not overly speedy.
Now he's got Craig Lowndes to assist, if you like. He didn't look a happy man, Marcus Ambrose.
And just by way of comparison, Skaife at a 58.1. So the progress is a little deceiving at the moment because the situation looks better than it really is for Marcus. He may have track position, but when he takes the stop and with such poor lap speed, he's going to get eaten alive.
One of the impressive things about the Ambrose character is his willingness to just get on with the job, wants to know the situation plain and clear, and then he gets out and does his level best to make it all happen. And he knows the situation here. He has to get as close as possible to Greg Murphy at the end. He's just got to stay in contact. The championship lead has been eaten away from a 90-point gap at the start of the weekend down to a 36-point gap on adjusted points.
Jason Bright, when he takes his stop, just using a rough calculation here, I think is going to slot in around about 13th, 12th, 13th in that realm. Lowndes got a run here on Ambrose. I think he's going to be able to get away with this. And up the inside. Aggravation for him at the start of the race because they had to remove the bumper. Watch the front of this Cat Ford through the bumps. I noticed on the previous lap a lot of oscillation, and we're looking at the back of it, but the car just
Lowndes has got fresh tyres there, so's Johnson. They are a lap down on you.
by comparison to the front of Marcus's car, just not nearly as settled. It's a fascinating place to watch a V8 supercar over at that part of the track. And sometimes the teams and the drivers over-focus on that one spot, but there's no bigger bump in Australian motor racing other than where cars get curbed on the street circuits, or perhaps where you drop them in the hole at the Dipper at Bathurst. But in terms of real bumps, here's Tander. That is a biggie up in between 6 and 7, Darryl.
Garth Tander in, nice wheel change, all wheels off. Looks like a tidy stop, yes, great stop.
So they're going to need to get onto the younger tyres for Marcus, because in net terms, he's really losing ground to the key players here. You can see it just by these blokes around him, let alone the front-running cars.
Marcus Ambrose. The question now is, when will he decide to come in? When will Stone Brothers Racing show their hand? And is Marcus Ambrose still strong enough and fast enough to keep himself in this race? Across the course of the weekend, we've had a record crowd here of more than 90,000 people at Pukekohe, some 40 to 50 today, to witness a very handy battle, especially in race 2. Now it's coming down to crunch time in race 3. Those guys down to position 5 that you've just seen on your PlayStation 2 race score are all yet to pit. So Scaife is our leader, Murphy is second, and Todd Kelly is third overall on corrected positions. That's the gap between corrected position 1, 2 and 3. Marcus Ambrose is coming in for his compulsory pit stop. As Greg Murphy stays close enough to lock in yet another win overall at Pukekohe. Daryl Beattie's there as Marcus Ambrose comes into the SBR garage.
Yeah, wheels off this car, guy. It all looks good so far. Russell Ingall was previously in here. They had a problem with the front left. Marcus has now stalled the car.
Hold it, okay, go, mate, go.
And he's been got by Seaton in pit lane as well with that stall, but Ingall's stop had a problem with the gun. They had to replace it quickly, and then now they've brought Marcus in.
Disastrous, simply disastrous for Stone Brothers Racing. You can have your off days in motorsport, but when the championship is on the line, that's when it really starts to affect. Now the job is right in front of Marcus Ambrose, Greg.
It was pretty amazing, Matty, to watch both pit stops just then. Daryl at one end, I was up watching Glenn Seaton's, and they almost mirrored each other. Glenn also stalled when it came off the jacks. It was a bit of a gamble. He only just got in front of Marcus toward the exit.
And you might wonder at home how that could be the case with Ambrose flashing his lights at Seaton. And it's for the simple reason that if you are anxious and you use too much throttle percentage to get away, the cars will sneeze, the engine coughs, and oh, look at this. Ambrose pushing hard, trying to get by Seaton, and they'll just virtually stop on you, and it takes not much more than low teens, 15% throttle or more, and you're into the limiter and the car won't launch away, so you've got to coax it.
Be patient.
You've got to coax the car away. Jason Bright's pace has been pretty good, He's actually dug himself out a little bit here. He's not going to slot in as far back as we thought initially. Murphy's pace has dropped away. Scaife's is not too bad. But Bright's actually going to get back into this in a reasonable position at the moment, I think.
And this is a real test of character for this man. The 27-year-old Tasmanian, now Queensland resident, of course, leading the charge, been simply brilliant this year, no question about that. 5 victories in a row.
Just giving him a little touch there.
Pole positions. He's definitely been the man at the moment for 2003.
He's got much better mid-corner pace coming onto the front straight than Glenn. But Glenn's got track position here. Where is all this? 17th and 18th. Not good numbers, are they?
No.
Lights again.
It's the
Marcus.
It's the numbers that go with it at the end of the day that's really the bigger picture stuff here. At the moment, Marcus Ambrose has got a bank of 104 or thereabouts for the weekend. Greg Murphy's looking at 186 for the weekend. Very, very close.
Glenn's in no hurry to yield because he doesn't have to. They're from different organisations. He's got track position. And at the moment, It's going to be up to Marcus to try and find a way around, and that's what the team are counselling at the moment.
Had 4 straight victories, Marcus, in overall terms. Eastern Creek, Winton, Western Australia, Hidden Valley. And finished second in Queensland. His teammate took it out, and then another win at Oran Park. Sandown and Bathurst weren't good. And then 4th overall at Indy.
Glenn's got a little bit more of a margin on him this time and is able to run at the race line. Had to have a second stab at the brake pedal there to get the nose on line. Behind is Russell. Jim Stone watching on. And now Russell's buying in here. He's cranky. He's saying, tell Marcus to get on with it. If he can't get by, let me at it. I'll do the job.
Well, somebody's got to break the seal, and Glenn Seaton doesn't want to let that position go. Been a good last couple of rounds for Cedo. 7th at Indy, 2nd, of course, at Bathurst. And there you go.
Okay. Have another lap and let Russell try and do it.
Glenn just waved at me. I'm pretty sure that's what Marcus said. He said, I'll have another lunge, and then I'll let Russell go. Rusty, you've been across all this as well.
I'm at the other end of pit lane, Matty. I've been up at FPR. I walked straight in and made a beeline for David Flint from FPV. He knew straight away what I wanted to ask. He said, no time to talk right now.
Yeah, they're a little bit busy out there, Greg, aren't they?
Well, it's hard sometimes for everybody to grasp, I know, but and that's the Ford Motorsport manager, Stephen Crook. And even though a lot of folks see it along brand lines, Holden versus Ford, the teams and the drivers often don't see it that way. They're individual organisations with individual priorities.
Well, the signals are coming fast and furious from Marcus Ambrose to Glenn Seaton. Down that back straight, he continues to flash the headlights at him.
He's not really close enough.
I was just about to say, he mentioned there that he wanted to have another lunge, but he simply hasn't been in the position over the last couple of laps, at least, to have a crack at Glenn Seaton, a decent crack. And remember, this has got to be a low-risk crack as well. Certainly doesn't want to do anything stupid. Jason Bright, the only one out there yet to pit. It'll be interesting to see just how much ground he'll lose once he gets in and out with a new set of tyres on. Pit window closes at the end of lap 38, so Bright's got another 5 to go before he has to come on in.
See, there's room up there if you've got a car that's going to brake a bit better, or a car that came off the previous hairpin a bit better, or is better in a straight line. Look at Murph's rear tyres. He's sliding around a lot, and so much so that Todd has a bit of a look here. This is going to be the situation for everybody here. A lot of cars sliding all over the road.
Ahead of Murphy, Mark Scaife has an 11-second lead over car 51. These guys have been going around together for quite a few laps, Murphy and Todd Kelly.
There's some discussion on the race control channel about whether, in fact, Glenn Seaton is blocking, and I'm sure that's been raised by SBR. But the pictures that we're seeing at the moment, I don't think so. Like, Glenn was on the race line on the way up into the hairpin then. Frustration for everybody. See, there's the margin. That's not a position to pass at the moment.
It's a fascinating battle, not just at the front of the field, but there's all sorts of subplots going on. And the one right here in the middle of it all is the subplot that could hold the key to the big, big picture at the end of the season. The 2003 championship is on the line. this will now show us the complete corrected order because Jason Bright has completed his pit stop, the compulsory stop for tyres. And in the meantime, just as Bright pulled in and then pulled away, back in that battle that we were watching just before the break, there's been a little bit of a change. Marcus Ambrose has let his teammate Russell Ingall go by, so Ambrose can now have a crack. Sorry, Ingall can now have a crack at Glenn Seaton, and Jason Bright rejoins the race in 4th position. Mark Scaife is our race leader. Greg Murphy is 2nd. Then it's Todd Kelly, Jason Bright, Rick Kelly, Stephen Richards, Simon Wills, Paul Radisich, Jason Bargwanna, Paul Wheel, Dean Canto, David Bernard, Stephen Ellery, and then we find these guys, Max Wilson.
Big reshuffle here.
Yep.
Ingall went past Ambrose. Ambrose got out of it on the previous lap to let him do it. Seaton's been shuffled back. Something has happened there. And now Ingall's also got past Max Wilson.
Well, Seaton's gone down behind Garth Tander on the order, so definitely something gone amiss for car 5 in that last lap. And Russell Ingall.
So the let me have a crack at the job remark from Ingall turned out to be pretty accurate. He's been able to get clear air basically pretty quickly. Look at this, Tander.
And
whoa,
Wilson.
2 at once. Gotcha.
Tander and Wilson get together to put the crunch on Marcus Ambrose. Tander got through, Wilson didn't. Seaton now crawls up behind Ambrose. I've never seen Marcus Ambrose under so much heat in 2003.
They're just giving him a belting at the moment.
Everybody's lining up to have a crack at him. And his teammate's doing his best to pave the way, but in between, he's getting caught up with fights left, right, and centre.
Greg?
Just watching Mark Scaife come through those final few turns and onto the front straight. He's really being very, very gentle with his throttle application and looking after those rear tyres. So good common sense approach from Mark Scaife. It does sound from the radio transmissions as well to Glenn Seaton's car like there may have been some sort of mistake. They're telling him not to apologise, just get on with the job.
Ambrose now applying pressure again to Tander, remembering this is a battle for 15th position.
You'd reckon it was for 1st.
And Scaife still circulating in mid-58s. These guys, by comparison, are in the 59s. Right on the edge of that speed. 58.9 last time through for this little bunch.
On points alone, just see here how Russell Ingall, now this is what happened. So Ingall said, let me have a go at it, and I will. And he did, and it worked. He got past Seaton as they went onto that back straight. He took the alternative route, but it worked anyway.
The Max Wilson traffic situation played a role in that one. Oh, Garth's got the rear of that thing hopping in the way to turn 5. He could not have braked 1 millimetre later up there then.
And there goes Jason Bright. So Bright now puts pressure on Todd Kelly. That's for 2nd, 3rd position rather. Greg Murphy has 2nd.
He's got a good car this weekend, hasn't he, Bright? It's looked after. It's
through the kink, down to the hairpin. This will tell us. Murphy clean. Bright gets it. So Bright goes into 3rd. Greg Rust.
I thought this might be a good time to introduce and talk to Roland Dane from 888 Racing. How's your season going so far? You joined around Sandown, and how's things progressing?
Yeah, not too bad so far. We'd like to be a bit higher up than we are now, but we're the top Ford running right now on the circuit today, this afternoon, so it could be worse, but we've got a lot of work to do to get right up the pointy end.
You've had some success in other types of touring car racing around the world. How have you found the unique supercars?
Well, this is the best touring car series in the world, full stop, bar none. And it's a privilege to be here. It's great to be here, and we look forward to growing even further with it.
Big year planned by the sounds of things in 2004.
Yeah, we got big plans for next year, but what counts is what you do on the track at the end of the day, so we'll be giving a maximum attack.
Let you get back to it. Thanks, Roland.
Thank you.
And Paul Radisich is the car that Roland's talking about there. He's in 8th position at the moment. And Bright is going hell for leather.
Well done. It was 13 second, 13.6 to skate last time. He's doing 58.4, mate. So, yeah, it'll be a bit of a push, but if his time's starting to go up a bit more at the end, it's possible to get pretty close to him, I think.
Just amazing how much things have changed just in that last couple of laps.
57.8 last lap for Bridie and 58.4 for Scaife. So this better electrical number 50 car is really honking along. 59.2 for Murphy, 59.3 for Todd Kelly, 58.6 for Rick Kelly, 59.3 for Stephen Richards, 9 flat for Simon Wills. Gives you a bit of an idea of their relative speeds.
Jason Bright, you would have heard when he got past Greg Murphy there, was getting the word, getting the picture of the guy in front of him that he needs to chase down.
Where it's worked well here for Bright is that he's now on a substantially younger set of tyres because he delayed taking this set in the compulsory pit stop until just recently.
Just recap on your PlayStation 2 race score. Scaife, Bright and Murphy make it 1, 2, 3, and then the Kelly brothers. Good effort from Rick Kelly, moved up 8 positions from his starting position. Simon Wills in 7th, Radicic is in 8th, Bargwana 9th, and Paul Wheel rounds out our top 10. A good pace for the Team Brock cars. Now Jason Bright has Mark Larkham in front of him going down the back straight. The gap last time around was 12.8 seconds between Scaife and Bright. And this thing is really a jet at the moment because he's gone shooting past Todd Kelly and Greg Murphy. And there's Rick Kelly. 20 years of age, the youngest ever winner of Bathurst, with his teammate Greg Murphy. And no matter what happens here today, these guys have really turned things around at Kmart. Spoke to Eric Pender just a short time ago before this race, and after the warm-up this morning, they weren't really certain whether Murph would have the pace because they ended up about 16th before they actually got out there under race conditions. And then it was a big relief to see that they were doing things right, and certainly finished that way in race 2. And it looks as though Greg Murphy and the Kmart team are going to an overall round victory as well. But don't forget, we're going to go all the way to Easter Creek where the championship will be decided. No question about that now. The final round, 13 rounds for 2003. Been a lot of controversy, a lot of talk about the change in the point score. By the time we got here last year, the championship was well and truly wrapped up. Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy and co now will take us all the way. We're going to go the distance for this season to find ourselves a new champion, maybe something dramatic can happen. And Mark Scaife could hold it on. It's a long shot. Lap 44 of 54 at Pukekohe. Well, Dean Canto has had some running repairs done to car number 66 as we rejoin the action here at Pukekohe. And this is exactly what happened to him. Not really sure if he got a touch from behind, but wow, that was so close to the rail. He ends up tagging it down the end. An unusual position to go off.
And while Dean contemplates his exit, the final turn, turn 7, and it's interesting to just contemplate the margin between the two lead cars at the moment, because the last time through, Scaife and Bright 8.7 seconds, and there's probably still enough laps left for Bridie to get pretty close to the back of Scaife at the current close rate. Depends a bit on traffic.
And probably a lot on tyres. Remember that Mark Scaife came in a lot earlier than Jason Bright. And this better electrical car of Dean Canto is now all battered and bruised, and he's going to be shaking and rattling and rolling and just generally misbehaving for the rest of the race. Stephen Richards in position 6.
A lot of people pretty snaky about the way in which the safety car intervened in the last race and how it ultimately picked up who it needed to pick up in the field, feeling that Stevie Richards and Jason Bright got a huge free kick. But there he is at the moment in 6th position. So he'll salvage pretty solid points out of this weekend, despite being a bit uncomfortable with the way his car's performing. A lot of people now drifting into the 59-second realm, and once you get past the top 10, there are quite a lot of people that are in the plus 60-second range for lap speed.
Well, for the last few rounds, Rob Crawford's been smiling like a Cheshire cat inside that helmet. Both cars in the top 5, that's pretty good.
Yeah, the guys are driving well, and everything, touch wood, hopefully they'll be all right.
When you say touch wood, Murph's tyres, the rear ones, are they okay?
Yeah, no, they're fine. We're just picking a pace, and, you know, Bridie was quicker than us, so we let him through for the championship, you know what I mean?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thanks.
They're making progress, the SBR guys. This is Simon Wills, he's in 7th. Ambrose and Ingle are up on the edge of the top 10 now, and Russell is doing the attack work, and the current man in the gun sights is Jason Bargwanna. Bargwanna 9th, Ingle now 10th, Ambrose 11th. And Bargwanna's struggling, he's doing mid-59s, he's under assault. Oscar talking there to Simon.
Cromley, I've just been crunching a few little numbers here in the Whitey calculator, which is very reliable, mind you. If it stays the way that it is in terms of overall points for the weekend and the adjusted points score, Greg Murphy will go to the last round with a 36-point lead.
Well,
David Bernard has got major troubles in car 7. And those troubles are only getting worse.
It's got some sort of an airbox fire, and often what happens here when you lift the bonnet, it gets a nice breath of air to give it an extra kick along, so he really needs to get the extinguisher. Whoop, and look at that, up it goes. Don't lift it, David, only going to get worse.
Whoa, whoa.
It feeds it, and now the guys are on the job, which is fantastic. The marshals just getting that nailed. Unusual to see that sort of problem. Bit off to the side of the road safely, and just a hassle. And Bernard just frustrated by a pretty tough weekend. So Scaife, 4 seconds now the margin to Jason Bright. Murphy struggling on this set of tyres in the late stages of the 3rd race. Body language suggests he's just cruising along from Todd Kelly, Rick Kelly, Stephen Richards, Simon Wills, Paul Radisich, Russell Ingle and Marcus Ambrose. And here's Russell on the attack. Gotcha. That was Paul Wheel. So Marcus Ambrose through on the inside of him as well. Here he is now getting Bargwanna. This is up towards the hairpin. He's in position. Bargs doesn't make a fight of it. So Russell's doing a good spear job here at the moment, just taking the heat, getting the hard work done, and this bloke tucked up underneath saying thanks for doing the hard work.
The barbecue has been put out at car number 7. Glenn Seaton's out of the car. This is our race leader, Mark Scaife. Greg Rust?
Well, Matty, with everyone going hammer and tong at this last race here at Supercar, we've had 3 races here this weekend. Neil's made a good comment throughout the course of it about the bumps around this circuit. Spare a thought for the front splitters on these cars. This is the one off John Bow's car. They're around about $2,500. These unpainted, a mixture of carbon fibre and fiberglass. And as you can see, it's copped an absolute hammering across the bumps here at Pukekohe this weekend.
That's a really good view of a front wing on the cars. You can see the cambered surface on the trailing edge. It works like a wing. You don't often get to see them fully exposed like that. Thanks, Greg. That bump, obviously each set of shock absorbers and each car reads it differently depending on how you've configured the shock absorbers, but it's rated at about a 12-inch a second bump. That's how much the bump impacts the shock absorber, so it's a biggie. And when you stand over there between turns 6 and 7, the cars really dance. We've seen some awesome shots this weekend in in our coverage, just showing how uncontrollable the cars can be there sometimes.
I must have grabbed your calculator, Cromley, because I need to make a correction.
I want that the Mickey Mouse hand I noticed on yours. 3.5 seconds, incidentally, Matty, before you do that. Scaife to Bright.
Well, courtesy of Greg Murphy finishing overall on 188 points here. And at the moment, Marcus Ambrose has a total of 120 points for the weekend. Start throwing figures around. It looks as though Marcus will actually hold on to the lead going to the final round. But, of course, his lead has been chopped away. And we know one thing for certain, that we will not know the champion now until the end of round 13 at Eastern Creek.
Points, of course, so simple to work out. I can't understand why you weren't able to just crunch that 0.1 of a second.
It's fried my brain for 13 rounds.
So we're on the last lap of this critical next to last round of the championship, and what a weekend for Greg Murphy. The Kiwis have loved every second of it. A commanding performance in the wet, an awesome performance in race 2, satisfactory in race 3. And this guy's been on fire. He's continued to pull down that margin to Mark Scaife on a younger set of tyres, and a good strategy for Bright, but it's been a great performance and a comeback also from Scaife. Remember, he was virtually last after that contact with Max Wilson in the wet race yesterday. Matty?
Well, there's no question about it. He's one of the smartest racers out there. That's why he's a 5-time series champion. Mark Scaife comes across and collects race 3 at Pukekohe. He finishes first and gets a good haul of points, but more importantly, Jason Bright finishes second, and our overall champion for round 12 of the V8 Supercars is this man. He's done it again. Isn't he what? 3 straight for Greg Murphy.
That was a bit of a handful, but we did it. Good job.
He's the champion again here. We've had 3 championship rounds, and Greg Murphy has been the winner now of all 3 of them. Absolutely unbelievable. Again, thumbs up. They've been shaking their head in almost disbelief at Kmart, just what Murphy does when he turns up to Pukekohe. But I tell you what, this man has really put in an outstanding performance. In race 1, as Neil mentioned, he found himself last and he worked his way through the field. In race 2, it was an awesome fight, simply awesome fight between Scaife and Murphy. Lots of good sportsmanship, lots of hard, raw racing. And here in race 3, Scaife gets the points. Jason Bright gets second. Greg Murphy gets third in race 3, but that's enough to make him the overall winner of this round. Just take a look at how much Holden loves coming to this place. All the way down to 7th position is where you find the General's men. Paul Radicic, the leading Ford. Marcus Ambrose climbs his way up into 9th position, and now he leads the championship on adjusted points by 22 points. It was 90 points when we turned up here at Pukekohe. It's been whittled away down to 22 points for Marcus Ambrose to Greg Murphy as we head to the last round.
Real significant points haul for Murphy, because he's come away from this weekend with 188 of them versus Marcus only 122. So without getting into the complexities of who drops what, in any man's language, that's the sort of yield you need if you're going to take the fight to Marcus Ambrose in the final round of the championship.
24 points it is between Marcus Ambrose and Greg Murphy. Mark Scaife gets the helmet off and celebrates a race 3 victory. But watch this. The kind of feeling that you get when you come home and everything just goes wonderful. Watch the crowd, they love it. Murphy applauds them, and they return in kind for the man who's made Pukekohe his own. Pure domination over 3 years for Greg Murphy. And the Kmart Racing team collect their 2nd overall win of the season. Bathurst was the peak, but Pukekohe is the passion for that man. Rusty has spoken to him time and time again here finishing first. Rusty?
There's congratulations right, left and centre here, and the big crowd at Pukekohe roared when Greg Murphy pulled up. 3 years in a row, you have claimed the round here. Very special feeling, I'd imagine.
Oh, mate, this is just not supposed to happen, I don't think. I can't believe it. I would never have thought it, you know. It's got to come to an end sooner or later, and you know, you never expected to be able to do that 3 in a row. Is just unbelievable, and it's all these people again, you know. I'm sure that's what's doing it, so they better come back again next year.
Your words on the radio were this was a bit of a handful, but the boys did a good job, and so did you, to get it to the line and get some good points in the bag.
The stops that today were fantastic. The guys have tried their absolute best here. We struggled a bit with the car, but you know, we qualified at the front, and that's what we needed to do, and we didn't make any mistakes. So here we are.
Bring on the championship decider. Well done.
On the championship, mate.
Mark, that was absolutely brilliant. It looked like it should have happened from Saturday.
Look, the car, I mean, Daryl, you know that over the weekend the car speed's just been fantastic, and you know, I've made too many mistakes. We're a bit unlucky, obviously, with the first race in the rain, so that put us back, but it's a great fight back for the guys, and they've done an extraordinary job. I mean, the car in that last race was as good as I've ever had here.
You look at Ambrose struggling a lot this weekend. We go into one more round now, and the championship's pretty much alive.
Well, it's absolutely alive, and Eastern Creek's certainly a happy hunting ground for us, and I can't wait to get there. It'll be on for young and old.
Well done, Mark.
Thanks, mate.
Well, Todd Kelly, a tough round at IndyCar, but boy, that's, I guess, avenged it a little bit. The car was good here this weekend, and so were you.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. We were struggling with a little bit more oversteer than Murph and Scapey had, so it was pretty hard. I could sort of catch Murph, but if I was going to pass him, I was only going to do it on the last lap because he would have got me back. But yeah, not a bad weekend for the team.
Have a good run at Eastern Creek.
Thank you.
Greg Murphy, he's been searching for that little key to success here at Pukekohe. He kind of says he doesn't really know what it is, but I think he's just found it up in the grandstands. And a happy snap. Another fantastic memory for the Kiwi. He's done it again here in round 12 of the V8 Supercar Championship. We've got a title fight going the distance now. Thumbs up for Greg Murphy as Murph Magic strikes again here at Pukekohe in front of a record crowd across the weekend of more than 90,000 people, and it's not too far a stretch to say that around 90% of this Kiwi crowd wanted to see Greg Murphy do it again. That now makes a clean sweep in overall terms for the 3 years we've been here. He's been the man spraying the champagne from the top spot on the dais at the end of the day. He got 188 points courtesy of 2 race wins and a 3rd placing in that 3rd race, and that is so crucial to the terms of the championship. Scan down the list to 10th and you saw Marcus Ambrose. That's how he finished up overall. What did it do to the adjusted point score? Well, 1,893 versus 1,869. That's a gap of 24 points. But to put it in the most simple terms possible, it means this: the championship will not be decided until we get to Eastern Creek. Marcus Ambrose certainly had his hands full this weekend. Let's hear what he had to say. He's with Daryl Beattie.
Well, Marcus, that'd have to be one of the most difficult weekends so far this season.
Yeah, this weekend's been really tough. We've had heaps of car speed. You know, we were matching Murphy and Scape's times there when I had clear track. It's just we just couldn't get to the front. You know, we missed our top 10 shootout by the rain, and then we had the rain in the first race, which put us back. We didn't get the car right, and then slow pit stop and a mistake on a flat spotted tyre cost us in race 2, and we bounced back today in race 3. But you know, it's closed the points up, and it's not the way we wanted to have the weekend finish.
Must be frustrating situation in a race like that when you've got other Ford cars in front of you not really giving you a break when Ford really wants to win the championship.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, the hardest cars to pass out there are Fords, and we're trying to win Ford's first championship for 6 years. You know, with factory cars, it's quite amazing.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you.
Pretty good point too. If this was a boxing match, you'd get the feeling that Marcus Ambrose would have taken his helmet off there, and you would have seen quite a few bruised eyes after all that, because he really got clobbered today.
He did. I mean, he was in the middle of all of the storms, wasn't he? I mean, I thought one of the things that's really interesting is we are now really right down to the critical end of this championship, and you look at the results from race 3 this weekend with the next to last round, and you see nothing but Holden when it counts. And the difficulty for Ambrose, there's just not enough Ford support out there in terms of other teams. they're just not quick enough at the end of the day. They've just been dominated today. And so when we go to Eastern Creek, does that hold true? That's going to be the big question mark, because if they all give them the short back and sides like they have this weekend, it's going to be on for young and old, as Scafey said before.
And that's exactly the point, especially about Eastern Creek, because we know that Mark Scaife is so dominant there. And what's happened in that point score is not only has Greg Murphy got himself closer, but also Mark Scaife's put himself a lot more in the picture. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's all building towards a tremendous championship result for all of us. It's a nail-biter. We don't know which way this is going to bounce. I thought a tremendous performance this weekend from Kmart Racing. Greg Murphy in particular and his engineering group really just didn't make any blues. They didn't quite have the car speed in the last race, but an awesome performance in the wet. They were blessed on a couple of occasions, but hey, it doesn't really matter, does it? And Scafey to come back from so far, I thought that was noteworthy as well. And Rick Kelly, a special remark for him, because he and his engineer Matty Nilsson were struggling after qualifying, and they came from nowhere in this last race and looked pretty darn good too. A lot of conjecture about the points system for 2003. It was all changed around, wasn't it? And like you said, the simple fact is that we're now going the complete distance. So we have to wait until the final round, the VIP Pet Foods main event, which is round 13 of the V8 Supercar Championship for 2003. We will have full coverage on Saturday and Sunday, 3 till 5 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time on Saturday, and of course Sunday 4 hours on your home of Motorsport Network 10. I am not going to let you leave Pukekohe as we go down to that final round without a tip for the championship. Oh, look, it's going to be a tough one. We've been trying to do the calculations and we haven't got it clean in our own minds yet, so we've got to be careful we don't spread misinformation. But Marcus has really got to finish in the top 5 in both races at Eastern Creek, as I roughly understand it, in order to keep this alive. Is that doable? Look, I really don't know at the moment. You'd like to think, probably for all the hard work and for the number of wins and the success in the shootouts, that he could bring this home for the team, for himself and for Ford, but it's going to be a nail-biter. It's honestly too tough to call. There's a political answer for you. Very well sat in the fence, Neil. Very dangerous fence to sit on too. See you at Eastern Creek, mate. Thank you very much. Neil Cropner with his expert comments here on what has been quite a fascinating weekend, a weekend where Greg Murphy showed again that there is simply no place like home for him. He loves it here, he dominates here, and at the end of the day, he got 188 crucial points in the championship. And at the end of the day, we're going to round 13 to see a thrilling finale to what should be a wonderful title fight. We're going the distance in the 2003 V8 Supercar Championship. I'm Matthew White. We'll see you there.
Today's round of the V8 Supercar Championship Series.